Coming up on Texas Parks and Wildlife.
When you get a bite on Lake Fork, you don't know if he's going to be 2 pounds or 12 pounds.
What we do here at Bear Creek Ranch is we have a native prairie. We take the cattle and graze them in a way that mimics the way the bison graze the prairie.
We are one of the easternmost points for the black-tailed prairie dog. A lot of folks come out just to see the prairie dogs.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, a television series for all outdoors.
This series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchase of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $40 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year.
Additional funding provided by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram.
Let go, put that hand right there, hang on. You got him.
Oh, yeah.
You got him down, okay, hold it right there. Now, you just point that fish at me like that, and I'll do that for you.
All right.
Here you are, young man. Stick your thumb in there and hold that fish up.
Corey Terry is a typical Texas kid.
Look at that.
He likes school, sports, and fishing. His favorite, at least for today, is pretty obvious.
There we go. All right, so you want to drop him in the water?
Sure.
Drop him back in the water.
Well, I caught 3 fish over there, and one of them was about 3 pounds, and the other was about 5.5, and it was a pretty big one.
And Corey's favorite fish, like most Texas anglers, is the largemouth bass.
There he goes.
Bass are big all across the country.
There's one.
Texas has some of the best bass fishing in the country. But it didn't come quickly or easily. The state has more than 1.7 million acres of inland waters, most of it in man-made reservoirs. Built for flood control and to provide water and power, these reservoirs also created more fish habitat. When the popularity of bass fishing took off in the 1960s, there were basically no limits on the number of fish you could keep. This led to a decline in bass populations, which in turn led to restrictions on the size and number of fish that could be kept.
Biologists in Texas were committed to making bass angling as good as they can make it, and they employed a number of tools such as length limits and stocking to achieve that.
In the 70s, Parks and Wildlife began stocking lakes and reservoirs with the Florida strain largemouth bass.
With all the reservoirs being built, the thinking was that the Florida bass would be more adaptable to those lake environments, and I think that's proven correct.
Well, yeah, it did work.
In the 1980s, anglers began taking the harvest limits a step further, embracing the catch and release concept.
Okay, wait a minute.
Why keep a 3-pound bass when you can put it back and catch it later when it's even bigger?
You got her good and firm?
I've got her.
Okay.
Bigger bass is the goal of the ShareLunker program.
Everybody give me a smile, come on.
Anglers loan largemouth bass that are 13 pounds or larger to the program. The idea is to breed the larger fish, keep some of the fingerlings for genetic study, and stock the rest back into contributing lakes.
I believe that when you look at the long-range projection, what can possibly come out of it, 10 years, 20 years, is that you probably see a new world record in the state of Texas.
See the fish just move, cast right back in the same spot. Come on. Hold right there.
If a new world record does come out of Texas, there's a good chance it will come from Lake Fork. This 27,000-acre lake, 60 miles east of Dallas, is possibly one of the best-known bass lakes in the world. The current state record largemouth came from Lake Fork, as have most of the top 50 big bass in Texas.
You cannot go anywhere in this country that fishermen have not heard of Lake Fork and do not consider Lake Fork as the top big bass producer in the United States.
Built by the Sabine River Authority in the early 80s, Lake Fork's reputation as the big bass lake in Texas is no accident.
All right.
Lake Fork is really a product of modern fisheries management. Even before the lake was impounded, there was a lot of planning that went into the fisheries management of Lake Fork.
The lake was filled in several stages, allowing fish populations to get started in small farm ponds. Most of the vegetation and timber were left intact, providing valuable habitat for bass.
Prior to Lake Fork, they would go through and just bulldoze the bottoms. And this one, they kept the timber, and that gave it a jump start like no other lake in the history of the state's ever had.
Lake Fork opened with restrictive harvest and size limits already in place.
Exactly 24.
As a result of these management practices, everything around Lake Fork revolves around fishing. Everything.
There you go. Always point it where you want to go. Right there. Stop it. Okay,
fishing at Lake Fork is a $27 million a year industry.
Okay, hop it.
It's a great place for guides like Brian Duplashane to make a living.
Reel, reel, every time. Set the hook hard, hard. When you get a bite on Lake Fork, you don't know if he's going to be 2 pounds or 12 pounds. Get over here. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. That's why we have so many people come from all over the country and all over the world, is because they can catch fish where they're at, but they come to Lake Fork to catch that one big fish. Pull, pull, pull. That's what Lake Fork's really known for, is its trophy bass fishing. This is what Lake Fork's all about, folks. This is what you come for, what Mary Beth just caught.
But Lake Fork isn't the only success story in the state. About an hour south is Purtis Creek State Park. At just 354 acres, Purtis Creek Lake is kind of a miniature version of Lake Fork.
This lake, and we say this, and this is our little logo, is the best little bass lake in the state of Texas.
Okay, go ahead and bring it on in and fire it straight out in front of you again, as far as you can.
Brian Hughes guides on Purtis Creek Lake 2 or 3 days a week. He found the lake almost by accident.
And I got stuck in some traffic, headed to another lake, and decided to come check this one out. And I've been here ever since. Caught a 12 1/4 out of it not long after I started fishing it, and that convinced me that this is where I ought to stay.
The lake record bass is almost 14 pounds. And since Purtis Creek is strictly a catch and release lake, the tales of a 15-pounder somewhere out there could well be true. One of the nice things about Purtis Creek Lake is that you don't need a boat to get to the bass. There are 2 fishing piers and lots of shoreline access.
Well, I'll tell you, one thing I love about Purtis Creek, you can always be pretty much guaranteed you're going to catch a fish. There hasn't been maybe one time I've come out here and I've not caught a fish. Woohoo!
We are like a small cove of Lake Fork in that we have all the big bass that Lake Fork has, except that ours is in a smaller area.
Isn't it cool? You gonna touch them?
I can eat them?
No, we're gonna let them go so we can get big.
Why?
Our goal is always to at least maintain bass angling as it is or keep improving it. Our big challenge will be to maintain what we have in the face of the impacts on water that there'll be in the coming years. I think that's the most crucial factor in our minds to providing good fishing for bass and all freshwater fish.
When we try to explain the importance of bass fishing, we talk about its impact on our economy, or how it adds to our quality of life,
That's pretty cool.
or that it's tradition. All of those things are significant, but they overlook what's really fundamental about fishing. It's just plain fun.
Oh, way to go, bud.
Those are the biggest fish I've ever caught. I think I'm gonna keep on fishing for a little while longer.
Bunch of them.
This is the Bear Creek Ranch in northeast Parker County, just southwest of Fort Worth. What we do here at Bear Creek Ranch is we have a native prairie and we apply a process of where we take the cattle and graze them in a way that mimics the way the bison graze the prairie. They go where the grass is fresh, they move, and then they don't come back to the place that they are today for a long time.
These old cows are used to moving like this, and they'll just come on through. They've been in there a few days, and they know they can come in here and this will be clean. They've got fresh water up there in the windmill tank, and they'll be pretty happy once they get over on this side.
This is Bear Creek. This is the creek that gives the ranch its name. The cattle are only here a few days a year. And that's particularly important in our riparian areas because otherwise the cattle would just stay here and we would end up with lots of bare soil around the creek, which would mean when you had a flood, it would all erode away.
This pasture looks good. You got quite a bit of little blue stem coming back. By allowing rest in these pastures in their unique grazing program, you get residual grasses, and that provides nesting cover and habitat for species like bobwhite quail and other grassland birds that are declining.
The way we manage the land here definitely has enhanced our wildlife. Because our livestock gets rotated around, they can move around to avoid them or they can join in with them. You know, they don't have to come in contact with our livestock at all if they don't want to.
The guard dogs, if we didn't have the guard dogs, we couldn't have these sheep. Because we have a lot of coyotes and bobcats out here on these prairies. These dogs stay with these sheep 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And they protect them, and that's what keeps us in the sheep business.
Area like this on the periphery of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in an urbanized environment, it's really neat and it's really encouraging to see ranches like this that are dedicated to preserving tallgrass prairie.
So much around the world these days is in a vicious circle. We've got a little bit of a virtuous circle going here. And so it's continuing improving.
We're about a 2-hour drive from Dallas, about 13 miles from Wichita Falls.
In the spring, Lake Arrowhead State Park can be a colorful place, right down to the water.
We are on the Little Wichita River, tributary to the Red River. Iron ore in the soil tints the water to the reddish tint, and that's where the Red River gets its name. We've got quite a bit of wildlife. We're kind of a quiet getaway. When Mother Nature shines on us, people come to see us.
But even when nature isn't so shiny, there's reason to visit Lake Arrowhead.
The strong pull here is fishing. It's an excellent crappie lake.
They like to bite in these overcast days. You can dodge the raindrops. You gotta chase them sometimes. And it's not looking real good in this spot.
Get some big ones, get some little ones.
Very, very large ones in this lake.
That's a big fish.
This is one of the premier crappie lakes in Texas.
Look at that monster.
Okay. No, don't take a picture of that one.
They get bigger than that, huh? Everything looks bigger on film. That's right. Well, that's quick release right there.
What's everybody want to do tomorrow? David, what do you want to do?
In the camping area, the Warburton family isn't letting the rainy weather spoil their fun either.
Did you guys find any of the hiking trails when you went fishing today?
No. Yes, Papa showed us one.
We live in Duncan, Oklahoma, which is about an hour and a half from here. Dad lives in Fort Worth, and a couple times a year we just pick a spot, pretty much always a state park, and meet up.
Let's go, Pa.
It's a good way to get away from it all, you know, give people time to visit. And the puppies like it too. All right, David, do you want to lead the way? Always something different.
Right now, we are the only Texas state park with a disc golf course. You can take a regular Frisbee and play it. You count the number of throws, like strokes, on a ball.
Yeah.
We have a working oil well pump jack in the middle of our campground. And it was here before we became a state park. Out in the lake, there are oil derricks still standing out there, which makes excellent fish habitat. Now, we also have our prairie dog town. We are one of the easternmost points for the black-tailed prairie dog. And we've got a small town of them that come up and bark at you and greet you whenever you come out. A lot of folks come out just to see the prairie dogs. You can experience nature a little bit closer than you can in some areas.
Come on, guys.
Although this weekend leaves the Warburtons with one particular impression of Lake Arrowhead.
Wet.
They plan to return one brighter day down the road.
We'll be back. Really inexpensive way to have a good time with your family.
Ready to go back to camp?
Yeah.
Austin, Texas. It's the capital of many things.
All those in favor,
It's the
vote
capital
aye.
city of Texas. Some regard it as the capital city of live music. Others regard it as the bat capital of the world. Not just because Austin has an ice hockey team called the Ice Bats. It's not even because of the millions of bats that live under the Congress Avenue Bridge in the summer. It's really because Austin is the headquarters of Bat Conservation International, or BCI, a nonprofit organization that works to protect bats and their habitat worldwide. BCI was founded in 1982 by Dr. Merlin Tuttle, an authority on bats and an internationally renowned scientist and photographer.
Bats, despite their many values, have traditionally ranked among the world's most frequently misunderstood, intensely feared and persecuted animals. The truth is, bats are essential allies. They play key roles, not only in maintaining the balance of nature, but also in maintaining the health of human economies. So why should anyone fear or want to persecute bats? The answer is simple. We fear and persecute most what we understand least.
Zoe doesn't eat insects like our bats do. She eats bananas and apples, and she loves cantaloupe and honeydew. She likes honeydew melons.
Does she like orange?
Apples, yes.
Who's been to the Congress Avenue Bridge? Raise your hand. Has everyone been? Who hasn't been? Raise your hand.
Almost every kid in Austin knows what happens under Congress Bridge when the sun goes down. The dinner bell rings for 1.5 million Mexican free-tailed bats that swirl into the skies to begin devouring insects. With the cooperation of the local newspaper, the Austin American-Statesman, and the city of Austin, a public viewing area was created for people to gather and enjoy the nightly flights. The viewing area has interpretive displays and even an on-site bat interpreter who answers questions and distributes information.
When they go out to hunt at night, they'll go in groups, but the groups get smaller as they go further from the bridge because of competition. So they'll fly out all together, but eventually they'll all spread out. Those little crevices underneath the bridge is actually where they're staying at. They're kind of hanging on to the sides of the cement because it's very rough and they're able to grab on. And the crack itself is about 16 inches deep, so they just kind of stack on inside.
Over the years, the bats at Congress Bridge have become one of Austin's most popular summer tourist attractions.
We estimate the Congress Avenue Bridge colony of 1.5 million bats can eat 10 to 15 tons of insects each night. When those bats exit, they head due east, right to the agricultural areas east of Austin. In fact, we know that they eat some of America's most costly agricultural pests, the cotton bollworm moth.
But what about agricultural areas like Baxter Adams, Love Creek Orchards? Do bats help them protect their crop?
Yeah, we really like bats. They're good neighbors, and they do their share of the work around here. Bat Conservation International went to them for information, and we began to put up bat houses, and one thing led to another, and now we've got bat houses everywhere.
The process of discovering exactly what type of bat houses different species of bats prefer is ongoing, and is the purpose of the American Bat House Research Project, headed by the husband and wife team of Mark and Selena Kaiser. Thousands of volunteers across the country participate in the project and supply Mark and Selena with the data they gain from their different variations of bat houses.
We have about 1,700 participants all over the U.S. and Canada that are monitoring bat houses for us in their backyards or in parks. They send us data on how well their bat houses are doing and what kind of bats they have. And we use this type of information to make recommendations on what makes bat houses work and what makes them not work.
While research is always important, protecting large roost sites is also a top priority, especially when it's a really big roost site.
Bat Conservation International purchased Bracken Cave in 1992, and the reason we bought it is because it's such a natural wonder. 20 million bats live within the cave, making it the largest bat colony in the world. And BCI, by purchasing the cave, has insured it for future generations.
I think the thing that I think about when I think about BCI is how poorly people thought of bats before BCI came along. BCI has caused people to understand that bats have a positive role to play in the environment, and in doing so, they've made an immeasurable contribution to their conservation.
Our purpose is to teach people to appreciate bats as incredibly fascinating, invaluable allies. Once we begin to understand bats, it's just natural to enjoy and want to help protect them.
Prescription eyewear.
Enjoy fresh air and open space every day with the Passport to Texas radio series from Texas Parks and Wildlife. Through sounds and words, we'll transport you to places with green grass and blue sky, if only for a minute or two. And sometimes that's all you need. Passport to Texas airs weekdays on radio stations statewide. Visit passporttotexas.org to find a station near you. And remember, life's better outside.
This series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchase of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $40 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year.
Additional funding provided by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram.